Hey, it's Kimberlee and welcome back to my channel. I make videos on all things lifestyle on a budget, and today let's talk money and let's talk what it takes to budget to live in New York City. Someone actually asked me this a couple videos back and I thought it was a great idea. First, I want to say that most of the individual budgets that I'm going to be talking about is from the perspective of someone that is living alone. If you don't live alone, or if you're not planning on living alone, you're going to be living with roommates, your bill will get divided out based on the roommates that are in that place. The reason why I feel like this is so important is because when you're looking for a place, you have this idea of a budget in mind and you're just thinking about the rent, but you do need to add on everything else that comes with the cost once you set the rent aside. So the rent sometimes includes these utilities, but oftentimes they may not. So you really have to calculate how much in addition to your rent you're going to be paying a month. For me, in my sense, what I did is that I had to actually lower what I wanted to do as my max rent to take in account for what my overall budget was going to be. First thing is obviously the rent. Whatever the base rent is, you're gonna have whatever you're paying for that month. So you have that, you see a listing, you see that it's gonna be that rent. Let's find out what's included. The main utilities that are important with your apartment are heat, hot water, gas, and electric. We'll just start there. Many apartments in the city may start off by including heat and hot water. That's great. That means that the heat in your place, you're not paying for that. That means that the running water in the apartment that you're going to have, you will not have to pay for. But double check. That was the minimum that I saw, was heat and hot water. That means that your gas, your electric are not included. So for my apartment, I was fortunate enough that heat, hot water, and gas were all included. I actually thought that the gas wasn't included. So when I was viewing the space, actually after I was viewing the space, when I went around with my super, I was like, oh, how much is gas? And he was like, oh, that's included. And I was like, yes, so I could cross that off. But I want to talk about that real quick so that you guys have kind of an idea of how much it may or may not cost. I asked a couple friends around and they say it's about $35 to $40 a month. So you would add that on, and that's going to be your cooking gas. So what you're using with your stove and your cooking and how often you cook will determine how high or low that price is going to go. If you had an electric stove, that would obviously not be gas, and therefore you would not have a gas bill. That would be electricity, and you would probably see that rise and fall depending. Electric for me is going to vary and range depending on how often I'm here in my place. I would say my usage is about in the $35 range. So we'll put that amount of money to the side. About $35-ish a month. It depends how often I keep these lights on and how often I'm using my appliances and things like that. Money saving tip is to keep those lights off as long as you can, or unplug things when you're not using them. If you are living with roommates, that amount will get divvied up between the two, but also remember, if you're living with roommates, you're all using electricity, so you might all be using a little bit more for various reasons, and so your bill might be higher, but I feel like in the end it'll probably end up coming down lower. Now for heat, again, heat is included for me, so I'm not sure how much, but I do know that someone mentioned that obviously in the colder months, if you're using your heat, you're going to be using that a lot more. It's kind of like similar to when you're at your house and like everyone tries to the last second to put the heat on because it is going to cost a lot of money. So maybe that might be in the $150 range depending on how many roommates you have or something like that, and you guys divide it out. It will be a little bit higher for sure in those winter months versus in the summer months when obviously you're not going to have the heat on. Now for me, electricity wise, when we get to the summer, I have an air conditioning unit. We're going to see how that goes. Generally though, I don't like air conditioning. It's loud. I'm not sure how this one will be, but we'll find out in a couple of weeks or months. But if that bill gets drastically high, I will be using windows. I will be using a plug-in fan, and again, it's just me, so I'm the type of person that's like, we're gonna make it work. If you're like, I'm not really gonna ever have the heat on, then maybe that's not a focus for you. Or you're like, I never ever cook, then maybe it doesn't matter that the gas is not included because you're like, I'm not going to use that anyway. So it's kind of like you just kind of have to keep shuffling with what you're interested in, but just keep it in the back of your head. So we did the electricity, we did the gas, we did the heat, and you have your rent on the top. The next thing is going to be cable and internet. For me, I absolutely need internet. That is a necessity. My internet, I went with Verizon. I went with one of the lowest tiers because it is just me, and so my bill is about $50-something a month. The cable, I was like, cable's going to be a no-go. I knew that from before I moved into the city. I just said I know where I need to cut a bill somewhere in there. Trying to live minimally, trying not to have, again, these higher bills. We're cutting out cable. A lot of the streaming services that I have are already included in the TV, or you get a certain amount of channels as well. But on the flip side, I do like to have like the local news on or things like that. So I got little box antenna that was only about, I think, $20 or so. I got it from Target, and there are times I'll be watching it and it's like, I'll be like, wow, I really wish I knew what was going on. But again, it's not the end of the world. The minimum plan for like the cable is about $50 a month. If you love your TV and you want the cable and all that, just add on an extra $50, or keep that in mind that you'll be adding on an extra $50 a month. So those are your basic necessities. You know, like I said, it's the rent, it's the heat, the hot water, the gas, the electric, and then the cable and the internet. From there though, you do have to keep in mind your other bills. So what are the other things that you're going to be paying every month that will affect your overhaul depending on your budget? So the optionals for me are the streaming services. So that's Netflix, that's Hulu, that's Disney Plus, HBO Max. Many times the cell phone companies will have a membership or partnership with whatever streaming service, so you could get that for free. Definitely look into that. When I got my Verizon, I got a free Amazon Echo Dot, which is awesome. I absolutely love it. I might do a separate video on it because I did not realize how convenient it is to have this. But that's something where it's like, oh, if you sign up for Verizon and you're a new customer, you can get this free thing, and then great, you don't have to pay for it. I don't have to pay for Hulu, but I do still have my Netflix, which is $8.99 a month. And then I do still have my Amazon Prime, which is about $14.11, something like that. So I'm adding that as well. If you have multiple roommates, those prices will now be halved or times 3 people. So then it will be even less and less. So it's all things that you just have to kind of take into consideration when you are, thinking about your budget. Now on to music streaming. So I have Tidal, so I pay $9.99 a month. I don't have Spotify, I don't have iTunes or anything like that. I now though do have an Amazon Unlimited Music membership, but I have the 3 months for free because I wanted to try it out. For me, I'm trying to decide, do I want to do Amazon Music or do I want to stay with Tidal? So by the way, if you want a free trial to the Amazon Music Unlimited, I'll have it down below. On top of that, now you have to think about your personal things, personal monthly bills that you're going to be paying as well. Cell phone bill is super important. Pretty much everybody has a phone. How much are you paying monthly, and how much does that kind of add into everything else that you're paying for? So for example, my bill used to be $80-something a month, but I got a new phone. The phone is bigger, the phone is more advanced, so now my bill went up to like $94. But the other thing that I kind of have in there is your health insurance. I just feel like that's kind of just in general very important, or something that you're kind of always paying with. Depending on if you pay quarterly or monthly, that too definitely determines your overall monthly bills. Another thing that's important to keep in mind in your personal section is your credit card bill, because that definitely affects your credit. So credit card bill, cell phone bill, and your health insurance are 3 things that I feel like are in the personal section. So finally, the other thing that's kind of could be a monthly, I paid it for the yearly, something that is reflective of your apartment, is renter's insurance. My building required it. I think many people have that same thing. I'm not sure. I just assume that you do, but I went with Lemonade. That's the company. Mine was $192 for the year. I think it came down to maybe 13 something or 16 something a month. I just chose not to do monthly. I just wanted to just kind of get rid of it and not have to think about it. I can't say if it's like the most amazing or had the best prices or not. My broker just mentioned that that was a company that you could look into because he knew that the building was a requirement, and I was like, great. Let me just check my notes here that I got everything. I hope that wasn't overwhelming, but overall that's pretty much everything. So just like a quick rundown in my eyes what's important, and I hope I didn't forget anything major, but if I did, just leave it down in the comments below to help someone out. The rent, heat, hot water, gas, electric, cable, and internet. Remember, some of those things might all be included together. Then we've got your optionals like your streaming services, your Amazon Prime, your music streaming services as well, and then the personals, which was the cell phone, the credit card, and the health insurance. I know that sounds overwhelming. As I say it, I'm like, it is a lot, but the sooner that you figure out where you are right now and what you might be paying, the clearer mind you have when you're looking at these apartments. Because what's gonna happen is that you're gonna see a gorgeous place and you're like, I love it, I love it, I love it, I can totally do that. Then you forget everything else that's part of your budget. It's helpful to write all this out so that you can kind of figure out where you have wiggle room, where you can nix things. Like I said, I was not getting cable, and then you can move on from there. I hope that's helpful. let's have a conversation down below. This is to just give you a sample of the types of bills. I felt like it's helpful to give numbers because that was helpful to me to kind of get my little reality check. I thank you guys so much for watching. If you want any more budget information or tips, comment that down below, and happy apartment hunting. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.